Andy, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you, bud.
You obviously faced Gronk a lot on the practice field.
Yeah.
Just wondering your thoughts on his retirement and stepping away.
Love Rob. He's an unbelievable guy. Great football player, better person, and certainly have some great memories with him from being on the same side. And I think I was just telling someone the other day, used to love after practice and training camp, my kids go run on the field and he's got to throw one of my sons on his back to do extra push-ups to kind of get the extra edge. And, I guess he just needed another 45, 50 pounds to do some more push-ups. And just, he had that playfulness about him that was sincere and just loved working with that guy every day. And competitive, we'd get into some situations where we'd be going back and forth and just a lot of fun, and so from that standpoint, great player, better person. Obviously, he's got, whatever career he decides to go to, he's going to be successful. And, I still don't rule out, the possibility of having to see him on Sundays either.
Obviously, he and Bill don't seem to have the same personality. How did it work so well? How did they get along so well?
You know what? I would just say in general, Rob, and not specific to any one person, he gets along with everybody. He's that guy that walks in a room and just, the room lights up and, he wants to have fun, but he also knows how to get serious and do what he's supposed to do his job. So a lot of great times with him and really close relationship with him. And obviously super happy and excited for him and, see what's next for him. I know it's going to be, it'll be interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you.
When you had like your exit interview,
I'm good. Thank you.
With Matthew Stafford at the end of last season, what the sort of things you wanted to know going forward? What kind of things maybe did he want to know?
Yeah.
And it's obviously important for the quarterback
Yep.
to have his input. So I just wondered
100%. I think, what's great about, Staff and I, we talk a lot. We have a lot of great conversations. I always want to know what he's thinking, what, how he feels the team, is doing, where's the team at, how he thinks, I'm doing, where I'm at with it. I think that's just a open working relationship you try to have with all your players, and especially him at his position, because he's the quarterback, he's out in front, and that comes with the territory. And it's always good that he and I are kind of just always on the same page. So it's been great. It's really been, he's a great person, he's a great player, he works hard, and a guy I really enjoy being around. He's got a toughness about him that I really, I'm drawn to, because it's kind of the same mentality that I have, and from that standpoint, it's just easy conversation. How can we get better? What are we looking at from all aspects of what we do? So,
I was just going to say that wasn't one of his better years, though. He was hurt a little bit,
Sure.
had some turnovers.
Yeah.
What would you like to see him?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think the thing about it wasn't one of my better years either, right? So, I haven't been in that situation in a long time, and neither has he. So, I think for both of us, we're just trying to get better next year.
I read that on Twitter.
Great. Surprised you guys aren't typing right now with that.
Is Jared a guy on the other side of that?
Yeah.
He seems like a guy who's tough, works hard, same kind of mentality.
Yep.
How important is he, man?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of guys, on the team in general, and I know we're just kind of singling out a couple of them, but Kennard or Snacks or any of those guys are great, but JD in particular, just because inherent with the middle linebacker position, you're the signal caller, you're the guy that's got to stand in front of the huddle and make that communication and get the call out to the rest of the defense. So he's another guy it's similar to the quarterback. You got to be on the same page. You got to be able to have those conversations with. Diggs is another guy that has that football mind. He loves to have situational conversations and adjustments, game plan thoughts, ideas, and you need that feedback. It's not a system where hey, this is what we're doing, I'm the coach, and you guys just do this. There's always got to be a feedback loop, because it is all of us trying to work together, and those thoughts and those ideas that are coming from the players or different things they see throughout the building, it doesn't always have to be scheme, are critically important, because they see it better than we do as coaches, and you need to hear that. Now, obviously, there's certain things that we do that might have a strong reason for them, and I try to explain that to those guys. And really, honestly, once this works for all of us, right? Once you know the why, then it's okay. You just go along with it and you just do it. So just trying to get that message out there as much as possible. This is why we're doing these things, because they are well thought out. There is a lot of logic to it from all of it, all aspects to what we try to do. So certainly from that standpoint, I think those are key guys for me to be able to have that conversation with. Tori, you can knock down that sign. I don't know why it's like right in front of your face. Just put it on the floor.
For Jared, just how much does he benefit just from you playing his position when he was in college and when he was in their Austin system, 18 years? Like, how much does he benefit just from having that?
I think as young players, you like to have some consistency. I think that's the best thing because then you can improve from year to year with a measurable standpoint. I think when you flip systems or situations, you think you may improve, but it's hard to measure. The overall picture. You might be able to take a look at like one particular play and say, I played this play better. Maybe fundamentally you got better, maybe, something along those lines. But from a situational standpoint or a conceptual learning standpoint, it's hard to tell whether that improvement was there. So this will be great, to have another year with it and then be able to measure that a year from now and say, okay, did we get better in the big picture of things that we're trying to do and how did that develop for him as a player? I'd say, one of the things for me that's I think for JD is, he's in a room, he's been in a situation even before I got here where, he's one of our better players and he's kind of out there in front. And, it's hard because there hasn't been that consistent dynamic guy next to him, that maybe has 10 years experience or 12 years experience that he could go have that conversation with. And that's just a little bit different. There should always be call it a lineage transfer, from positions, especially at the linebacker position. Quarterback's another one. That's a critically important position to be able to help younger guys that come into that position with a person that's been in the league for, because there's so much intricacy and detail that goes into those positions. So, I had that situation before where I brought in a young linebacker, but he sat next to guys that have been in the league. They're all pro Super Bowl champion guys that have been in the league 10, 12 years. The knowledge that you get instantly within a year or two of sitting next to those guys, it's so valuable, and that's something that JD hasn't really had. So we got to just keep giving to him as much as possible, and that's what keeps me up at night. Those are the things I want to make sure that I can do to help him just, be a better player, be a better person, be a better leader, all of it. So, guys like Kennard really help the room a lot. Diggs, we got guys like that in there. Trey Flowers will help a lot. Snacks is great, his insight, and you can learn from all of those guys, and that's what's so important. So.
Speaking of when you talk to the young guys, you got the draft coming up. And it's a different position since we saw you at the combine. You've got some senior players now. Is it really the defensive playmakers that you guys have talked about?
Yeah.
Do you see that in this draft?
It's a good question. You always see great playmakers that are coming out of college, and the idea is to try to figure out the transfer, to the next level, and what are those positions that those guys can really be impactful and help you. Certainly, the conflict always, as it is with the draft and team building, is what are your needs, and then what are the best players available, and that's something that it's hard to speak on until you're in that moment, and when you're in the moment, you say, all right, this guy fills a need, but this guy's a really dynamic player. Well, he's a dynamic player here. Okay, that shifts things this way. How do we line up? How do we get ready to go? And you got to be able to make those decisions pretty quickly. So that's a fun part of the puzzle as you're kind of in that mode. And you'll evaluate it as you go through. There are certainly some really good football players coming out of college right now that will play in this league, will be dynamic in this league, and will help. Who they are, I'm probably not going to tell you, but from that standpoint, those players are there. But you also got to remember, I'm always a little hesitant from the standpoint of these guys have played college football. They're going to walk into a locker room with guys that have been playing in the league, 5, 6, 8, 10, years. So you always just kind of slow it down a little bit there and say, great player, but walking into a new situation, let's see what it looks like.
What's the one trait when you see it on tape and you meet the guy in person that really gets you excited about a prospect?
From the college game? Yeah, it's a good question because the college game is hard to transfer sometimes into the pro game. There's certain things that, just you don't see dynamically, but you look for the simple things. It may sound cliche, but it's really not, because we're going to teach them the other stuff, right? We're going to teach them scheme. We're going to teach them fundamentals. We're going to teach them some of those things. So you start basically with, all right, what does his speed look like on film? What does his pad level look like? Can he come downhill or can he get open? There's the fundamental skill set that things, quickness, in and out of breaks, whether it's football instincts, how smart is he as a player? Does he make checks and adjustments? Is he a guy that sees the whole field? Vision is a big thing with a football player, obviously, because when you're out in the field and 22 guys are trying to orchestrate themselves in the same direction, there's feel, there's vision, there's people working off of each other, and you can at least get that sense of, all right, this guy, he may not know what he's looking at, but he feels this over here. And then that's what's great about getting in a room with them and sitting down and going through the tape and being like, all right, what was the call here? What are you supposed to do? Did you see this over here? Did you feel this? Or were you looking in this direction? And if they can talk football and really understand from a conceptual standpoint, that's where you can really build.
I'm excited about that, and just the love that they may exude and
No, good question too, because I think you always want to find toughness. That's kind of a fundamental, and you want to find that kind of never quit attitude. The guys that are always going to go compete. But first and foremost, you want to feel the love. You want to feel the passion. You know, when you're passionate about something like we all are, and you know we love this game and we're passionate about this game, you want to be surrounded by people that have that same energy, that same feeling, because it means something. You know, it's really critically important to them. It's critically important to you. Then you can get something done. You know, if somebody is a little bit lesser on the critical standpoint, or it's not as passionate as you are, then you know, those wedges, you'll find out what they are. It doesn't mean they don't work. It just means that, you know, you really always want to surround yourself by like-minded people that want to always achieve, you know, the highest level.
Coach, with TJ's departure, you got an opportunity at right guard right there. You know, the draft, there might still be some more pieces in play, but with Ode, with Kenny, with Joe Dahl, does Crosby fit into that mix at all? Do you envision him getting
Sure. You know, I mean, I think the thing is we got all of our players that are, you know, out there competing, and we'll give them opportunities to do anything they can to help the team. In the end, and it may not always look conventional, so you may not really know what we're evaluating at the time, but we are evaluating those guys. So, you know, what do they do well from pad level standpoint, quickness. The game's a little bit different inside than it is outside for Crosby. So some of those situations we're going to have to see if he can do that, but we'll do that with all of those guys. There'll be a constant flux of positional, I don't want to call them situations where they're, you know, we're just seeing what they can do. But, you know, we want to put our guys in as many possible situations that we can, because what happens is, you do it in the spring, you do it in training camp, and even if that's a situation where you're like, all right, this isn't really a great fit, you do it then because, look, we go to a game, we're only going to bring so many guys to the game. We're only going to have so many active players. Now, your offensive line is always a critical one where you're like, all right, how many guys are we going to go with? How many guys are going to be up? And it doesn't take much for now, you know, we've all seen it, right? A tight end that's got to play tackle, a tackle that's got to play guard, a guard that's got to play center. So you can't just put them in those situations in a live game without any reps, because that's not fair to the player. So you try to do as much as possible ahead of time. So we'll mix that in, or we'll put those players in those situations and try to simulate that whenever we can. And, you know, sometimes you do it and you find out, hey, this guy's actually okay in this spot, and that's how they build a role from there. Does that make sense?
Matt, can I ask
Yeah,
you about
how you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Good to see you.
Can I ask you about Gronk?
Sure.
What was it like going
Everybody's
up against
asking me
him?
about Gronk.
Okay.
Something happened?
There's been a little bit of news
Yeah.
this week. I don't know if you heard. What was it like going up against him in practice? What kind of practice
Yeah.
was he like?
Good question. You guys get to hear this again. So,
Sorry.
you know, like I said before, Rob's an unbelievable guy. You know, his passion, his love for the game. You know, a lot of times, you know, you look out there, and I would chuckle to myself because I'm like, this kid is out there playing football like he's in his backyard. You know, like he's 8 years old, and the love of the game is still the same, and he's got that wide-eyed look, loves to compete, loves to, you know, go at it and just try to get better. And that's the one thing you just respect so much is his work ethic. You know, as great as a player as he was on Sunday, you know, the things that he would do during the course of the week were even better. And I think from a coach and a teammate, you can look at that and really respect, you know, the way that he attacked the game. So, you know, told a story earlier about him and, you know, how he was with my kids and how awesome, you know, he just always was to, you know, have them out on the field and run around. And, you know, my son would either tackle him or they'd do push-ups together or whatever it was. But just a great person, you know, a great guy. We trick-or-treated his house, you know, just all those things that, you know, just really cool that make a person, you know, special that he has. So obviously wish him the best, you know, in his next career or whatever that'll be. It'll be great. Probably a little bit excited now that I don't have to see him on Sundays, but I can't totally write that off either.
So I saw Bill came over here and gave you a nice handshake. So he's not mad about you taking Trey Flowers away from him?
Again, you know, Bill and I's relationship is something that I hold really serious and really near and dear. So, you know, we'll always be great friends.
But Trey is an important piece for you for locker room and leadership. And
you know what? I think for me, it's just about, you know, and Bob and his staff and what they do is just trying to bring in the right guys. You know, we're just trying to bring in guys that we think can help us win. So, you know, for our standpoint, we're excited about all the guys that we signed this year, along with the guys that we signed last year, along with the guys we drafted, and obviously the team that we have. So we're going to build on those guys that were there. Those are the ones that are building, you know, it's Detroit culture. It's about the Lions, and that's really what we're doing. So everybody that comes in, whether you're coming from Seattle or Pittsburgh or, you know, wherever it is, Oakland, it's all about the Lions, and that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, good to see you. Yep, take care. I mean, I probably have a couple of them. What did Flo tell you?
Yeah, you know, you can filter through to us.
All right, I'll give you one. So we do a goal line 7-on-7 period every day and Friday practice. So I would usually stand over the cans. We put the trash cans out there as the O-line, and they'd be running crossing routes. And a lot of times when you're doing 7-on-7 passing plays, advantage goes to the offense. So being a defensive coach, I was trying to make it as difficult as possible. So Rob is running. He's running a crossing route behind me, and I knew he was. So I took the garbage can, and I just slung it backwards, and I caught him right in between the legs. He goes down hard, and he's laying on the ground. He's not getting up, and I'm like, this is Friday before a game. I'm like, this is it. I'm done. Gronk's not getting up. That's about it. And he's playing it off. He was fine. But I was like, get up right now before I get fired. Like, what are you doing? So, great guy. Yeah, you're welcome.